All right, so this is Unit 8, Formative 1, Video 2, Factor by Grouping. And this one we're going to have groups of 4, so we're going to have polynomials that have 4 terms. Again, just like in the last video, you always look for GCF. So we want to look at 18, 12, 3, and 2 and see if there is a common factor that will go into all of them. And there's not a common factor, so what we're going to do is we're going to factor by grouping. So we're going to group the first 2 terms together and the second 2 terms together. Now when we do that, we're going to make sure that the sign in between the second and third term is still in between the parentheses. Okay, so don't group this plus with the 3. It needs to stay in between the parentheses. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the first group, the 18x to the third and 12x to the second, and we're going to factor a GCF out of these 2. Okay. So what number will go into 12 and 18? And that's going to be a 6. So I'm going to factor 6 out. Now they also have a variable x in common, and they have 2. So they have an x squared in common. So I'm going to factor out an x squared. Okay? And just like in last time, the 6x squared is going to come outside the parentheses. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to divide. So we're going to take 18x to the third, divided by 6x to the second. So 18 divided by 6 is 3. And if we have x to the third divided by x to the second, we're left with x. Okay. I'm going to bring down my sign, and now we're going to do the same thing. 12x squared divided by 6x squared. So 12 divided by 6 is 2, and then my x squareds cancel. Close your parentheses. You're going to bring down that sign. Okay, whatever sign is there, you're going to bring that down. Okay, now we have 3x and we have 2. Okay. If there's nothing that'll go into them, like in this one, we're going to go ahead and factor just a 1 out. Okay. So we have 3x divided by 1, which is 3x. And then we have a minus 2 divided by 1, which is negative 2. Now here's something you have to be careful, and it's actually nice on this part, is these 2 things in the parentheses, the 3x minus 2, have to be the same. If they are not the same, you did something wrong. So you need to go back and check your GCFs. In our case, they are the same. So I can go ahead and write the answer. So we are going to take what they have in common, and we're going to factor that out. Okay, so we factor the 3x minus 2, that got rid of those. And then the other parentheses is what we factored out. So 6x squared plus 1. Okay, and that is my answer. Okay. Let's try another one. All right, so again, we're going to look and see if there's a GCF. 8, 2, 28, and 7. There's not a number that'll go into all of them, so I'm going to go ahead and group them. Okay, and remember, we talked about this, that sign needs to stay. Don't group it with the 28, so it's stay outside. Okay. Now a couple things. We're actually factored a negative out. Okay. So that changes the sign. Originally this was a negative 28x. When I factored the negative out, now inside it's a positive 28x. Okay. Now we have to do the same thing. If we factor a negative out, this plus 7 becomes a minus 7. Okay. Now, another way you can double check that is see the 2 signs that are inside the parentheses. This is a minus. This has to be the same sign. So if this was a minus and this is a plus, the second one is wrong. You need to make sure you change it. Okay. So the signs that are in your parentheses have to be the same. All right, now let's go ahead and do our GCF. So we are going to take our first one, and we're going to find a GCF between 8 and 2. So what will go into 8 and 2 is 2. Okay. Now they also have variables in common. So they have an x, and they have 2 x's in common. So that would be x squared. So I'm going to factor 2x squared out. Now 8 divided by 2 is 4. And then x to the third divided by x to the second is x. Okay, now we are here. So now we have negative 2x squared divided by 2x squared. So negative 2 divided by 2 is 1. Oops. And then our x's cancel. I'm going to bring down the sign. Okay, now 28x and 7x. What'll go into both of those is 7. Okay, the 28 has a variable, but the 7 doesn't, so we can't take out a variable. So 28x divided by 7 is 4x. Bring down the sign, and 7 divided by 7 is 1. And again, if you look, wrong color. If you look inside our parentheses, they are the same terms. 4x minus 1 are in both of them. Okay, so that means you got it right. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and write our answer. Okay, so we're going to take what they had in common. Okay, factor that out. So that's 4x minus 1. Okay, and then our other parentheses is going to be what we factored out. So 2x squared minus 7. Okay, and that would be our answer.